South Carolina passed a bond reform bill to address the problem of criminals who commit additional acts of violence while out on bond for other charges. On the surface, it makes sense. It sends out a message that if you're out on bond, you need to lay low and stay out of trouble. You could get an additional 5 years of imprisonment if found guilty of a crime committed while out on bond. But as you'll see in this debate, there's a problem. I really respect those like Representative Todd Rutherford who speak out on behalf of those innocent people who get caught up in these gotcha rules. And while that may represent a very small portion of cases, it's important we fight for them. We don't want to be a state that accepts a few civilian casualties to justify winning a battle. We can be better than that.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, this is the bond reform bill. We have all heard that there is a lot of push to get something done when it comes to bonds, to reform, especially when it comes to violent offenses. And we have done a good job with it.
Mr. Rutherford has a couple questions. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Johnson, what did you all do to take into account innocence? Tell me how you all went from simply punishing people that are charged to recognizing that in every single county, every single day, charges are reduced or dismissed, or null prost, so that people are actually not guilty for the charge that they have been given. How did you all recognize that somebody may be charged with an offense while out on bond and then found not guilty? Where is that in the bill?
This is a bond bill, and it deals with really whenever somebody is charged with a crime. As far as innocence, they will have their trial in front of a jury. That is whenever they are to prove they are not guilty of a crime. I think you're getting into whether or not they are guilty or not guilty of the crime. This is merely setting the bond. And if they are convicted of the second violent offense, then that is when the new charge, new indictment, because they were found guilty by a jury who said you are not innocent. And in criminal law, we like to really say not guilty.
So what happens, what recourse does someone have when a law enforcement officer simply charges them, and because they are now charged with a second crime, they have now lost their ability to get a bond? Let's say they're charged again, then you all have upped what they have to do in order to get out on that bond, and then later they are found not guilty or the charge is null prost. What penalty does government have for interfering in someone's freedom, taking their freedom away, and locking them up? What penalty did you all put in place for the government to pay for violating someone's constitutional rights?
This is a bond bill that deals with if you are charged, okay? You're trying to get into really, the trial and the conviction. This is when they are charged with it, with a violent crime. Then what happens is, if it is a second violent offense and they're already out on a bond for a violent offense, it is a cash bond. They get bonded out.
Why didn't you all just jump to what you just stated, which is a charge in South Carolina is a conviction?
Nope.
Because once somebody is raped or murdered and the police say that guy did it, let's just do away with the whole process, because you've done away with the Constitution.
Nope.
The Constitution requires, in fact, the Constitution demands that someone have a right to a bond if they are not a flight risk or a danger.